what we're going to do. Just a second and then we'll start. Perfect. All right. I hope the session is not as gray as this room, but here we are. Here we are. I'm hoping other people, everyone else also joins in. Perfect. Perfect. This looks normal. This feels normal. The batch suddenly feels normal. Okay. So first things first, I'm doing really well. I'm busy doing lectures for CA final, and that is keeping me really busy. I also finished a couple of fast track courses and tax marathons for CA Inter and CA final. So that was really exciting. And lots of people complain about taxes. I have no complaint about any tax because tax is something that I really enjoy. With you guys, it's been a while that I've met you guys online, of course. But the agenda is that I want to just catch up with you guys on terms of where you're on studying, if there are any doubts. Also, the amendments. Now that we've finished the portion and it's behind us, it's really good to actually look at the amendments at one go. So that really, I will answer all the questions, guys. I will answer all the questions in some time. When are we having the tax marathon? We'll have all of that. But I'll tell you the plan also now that the exams are in December. That gives us one extra month. Also, now that the exams have been announced, we are very, very, you can plan it better. I can plan it with you guys better. So the intention is that today's session is just about amendments. So I will tell you about amendments. There are two sheets. I don't know if they're forwarded to you, but at the end of the session, if they're not forwarded, I'll ensure it's forwarded to you. So you get a good idea about, you got it perfect. Received, all right. So we'll talk about those amendments. Those amendments are really important, and sometimes ICI, when they're lazy on a lazy day, on a lazy year, on a lazy attempt, they put a lot of amendments in the exam, and I hope that happens this time as well. And also, then I will tell you, if you've not started studying tax, or if you're lagging behind, it's typically the case, guys. When you're doing CA, it's typically the case that you always feel that, oh, others have done more, I haven't done enough. There will always be down days. So we'll talk about that, and we'll talk about how to strategize for your tax exam, especially. And if I can plug in with a fast track tax marathon, how do we go about that? Also, we will talk about. So, but it's the month of September. Okay, so your timetables would have gone a little haywire, but that's perfectly normal, honestly, guys. I've been there. I've been there in the same boat, and I've sailed that boat. Of course, there are days when you will feel you're lagging behind. You will read books and you will forget what happened in your classes because they've happened a long while back. And honestly, that is completely natural. Every time you struggle with something, always remind yourself that in India there are thousands of people who are doing the same thing with you. So you are in a train or in a plane with too many people together. So it's not just you doing it, everyone. And trust me, everyone goes through same feelings. I've been doing so many CA Inter batches right now with you guys here at Pinnacle and other places as well. I can completely understand with the queries that everyone's on the same page. If you are getting better at one subject, there is someone else who's better at another subject. So stop comparing yourself and start pushing each other. Honestly, be a little more human towards each other. Talk to your friends, not in a very competitive manner, but just pick them up if they are feeling lost, encourage them and push them back. Also, guys, all motivation. I put a Instagram story a couple of days back that India mein free kya milta hai, and the most common answer I got that India mein free kya milta hai is advice. So everyone wants to give advice to each other, and hence I'm not going to give any advice to anyone. Self motivation is the best motivation. So stay self motivated. Listen to songs which really motivate you. These are small things but that really matter. I still remember having a playlist in before my exams, CA finals, and whenever I was down or whenever I would go for a walk, I would watch, listen to those music. I had some movies which I would watch again and again, because honestly, these are, they, in just talking about them, it feels so funny and feels so stupid that how can a song motivate you? How can a movie motivate you? But that really does the trick. So I have never believed in motivational speakers, so I tend to avoid them. I tend to laugh when they talk about things, so I tend to avoid motivational speakers. But honestly, some downtime, it really, really helps. So have that list of songs, have some movies, have some downtime. A Saturday evening, even now, is a Saturday evening. In fact, an evening now is also an evening, guys. Enjoy it. Enjoy that 1 2 hours of off time. And whoever tells you whatever, guys, number of hours, there is no measure of how many number of hours. What works for you works for you, honestly. So don't compare yourself with these people are doing so many number of hours. But having said that, if your friends are doing, pushing themselves, that's just an encouragement. I remember a friend of mine putting in 12 hours every day, and just by talking to him, I was like, okay, yes, I can also put in some extra hours. So that really helps. But yeah, that's it. And one more extra month really adds a lot of advantage to our preparation, especially for tax. I can do so much more now if I get 2-3 days with you guys. That'll be really nice. So just putting some things on the screen right now and just talking to you guys about it. Just 5 minutes, guys, before we dive into amendments. So in terms of you and me preparing stuff together, I feel now September, October are time that you want to do it yourself. I would wait for y'all to actually go through the book yourself, to puzzle yourself. What I could do in the meanwhile is, I started uploading YouTube videos on revision. I want to complete that entire list. So I want to add YouTube videos on all the different chapters. Revision videos, they'll basically be revision videos. And the best way is whenever you're looking at tax, let's say PGBP is revised in like 1 hour, or let's say deductions are revised in 40 minutes. So you watch that video, you understand everything, and then you start looking at the books. That's the idea. But I'm just waiting for a few more days for me to start uploading some more revision videos. But having said that, I'm looking at somewhere in October end to do like a 3-4 day course, like a 4 day revision thing. So I want to announce it really in advance so that you guys can plan your days accordingly. And let's say 4 days if we reserve for tax. I think about 2.5 days we can do DT, and 1.5 days we can do IDT. And you have mock. So yeah, we'll plan accordingly. Don't worry. I'll speak to Pooja and the team, and I'll plan accordingly. But I want to do about 3-4 days somewhere in October. I want to plan so that it will be a comprehensive batch. You will have lunch, breakfast, dinner, everything here only in the computer before it. And we will do a day long, 2 day, 3 day long tax course. So I will take care of the entire tax with you guys. And in that, what will be different? Of course, revision will happen, but we'll specifically look at exam questions there. We'll cover all previous examination questions. We will cover RTPs there. So every subject we finish, every chapter we'll finish, we'll go to exam question RTPs. So you get an idea about it, and we'll solve questions there. So that will be different from what we've actually done. But this can only happen slightly faster if you've done your first reading of the subject. So I'm going to wait for that to happen. So somewhere in October, that is the plan. Of course, you can come up with specific dates. I'll also talk with Pooja and stuff. So if we can plan it before your prelims, it's great, because then you can study with me and then attempt your prelim exams as well. So that's on. Can you share the link for 115 BBC video? 115 BAC is the last video on YouTube that I've uploaded. Just go to the YouTube channel and you'll see that is the last video I've uploaded on it. That is what I was talking about. Yes, and guys, I have a book called the Quick Book. Okay. Honestly, we started taking notes after a while. In a couple of chapters, we did without taking notes, and then we started taking notes. But I have a quick book. That quick book basically is the stories that I've been telling you and the shortcuts that are there. I have made a quick book. If you guys want, I can share that quick book with you guys. I'll also show you how the quick book looks. Let me just show how the quick book looks. Just 1 second. Let me just open it for you guys so that you all understand what I'm talking about. 1 second. The CA Inter Quick Book. Yes, here it is. Yes, I'll just show it to you so that you guys know what I'm talking about. Quick book here. All right. Guys, this is the quick book. And this is for November 21. It basically has every chapter summarized. So this is the first chapter. This is residential status, and it has the shortcuts also somewhere with linkage to questions. So it has been linked to questions. So this, what it does typically is just helps you revise faster. I'm just skimming through the agriculture income. There's a little story ahead. So if you guys want, I will definitely share this. I will share the quick book. So this completes, this has all the chapters. Let me check if it has all the chapters. Last is rates of tax. Yes, it has all the chapters. Return of income. Yes, it has all the chapters. How many pages roughly? This is about 50 pages and it covers the entire DT in about 50 pages. I have the same book for IDT also. I'll just show you IDT as well. Just let me show you IDT as well. 1 second. Quick book here. This is something that I use in a fast track batches. Just 1 second. All right. And guys, 1.5 days before the exam, you don't have to do anything. If you've been my student and if you've been studying the way I have been teaching you guys, all you got to do is attend the tax marathon that happens before the exam. You know, that will completely take care of your exam preparation. But you know, the tax marathon only works if you've studied well before that. So do a reading before that, do section wise revision or whatever you can. Attend, if I have a fast track course for you guys, attend that. And then the 1.5 days before the exam will go very smooth. Guys, this on the screen is the IDT book. This is the same IDT quick book, but for IDT. Again, it's for November 21. This one is 30 pages and it covers the entire IDT, including amendments, including all the exemptions, guys. It has all the exemptions. And it is linked to a question book. I have another question book, but honestly, that will be too many questions for you to do. So I'm just going to send you this book and you can align it with the questions. You can revise. This is a good way of revising. It's about 30 pages of book here. This one, I'll just show you how to read this. Let's take one chapter. Let's take value of supply. Oh no, value of supply is too easy. Let's take supply. So all the shortcuts like IMS, GIMS, exempt includes two ends. Whatever I used to speak about in the class, A plus B is equal to C for supply. You know, B is for Bahar se services. B doesn't require B. All these shortcuts I've mentioned here, so that someone who's been my student also can study well and can use the shortcuts here as well. A family can cope 25%. This is for related persons. So that is how this quick book has been made. I will share it with you guys. Don't save. Yes, don't save. Perfect. All right. So when are you going to send the audio notes so that I can hear them while exercising in the gym? Harsh, you'll have to watch the YouTube while exercising in the gym, honestly, because the audio note, I could not, the idea of audio note, I stopped because I thought YouTube videos are much better in the way. Not because you can see me, but because I can show you some diagrammatic representation, illustrations, etc. on the screen. I can show you some numbers on the screen. So that's where YouTube videos will come again. I've uploaded some. Honestly, I got busy with things, so I could not upload all the revision lectures, but I will do that really soon. In the meanwhile, guys, let's do what is today's agenda. Today's agenda is, of course, amendment, which I'm going to talk about in just 5 minutes. But I also want to talk about for someone, let's say you've not, the last time you saw tax was when was my last lecture. Probably you missed a lot of my lectures also. So if you're going to start from scratch, just let me tell you what can you do about it. Guys, if you're starting, that's honestly you. Okay, perfect. So I've got at least one person who's honest here. So if you've not been doing tax, I would strongly suggest you do IDT. Okay. So let's imagine, guys, that you maybe attended classes and all the classes also you did not attend or whatever was the reason. When you're studying tax, pick up IDT. And when you pick up IDT, honestly, you should pick up from the first chapter, not that you go to the fourth chapter. And while you do IDT every day, in IDT, there is one chapter called exemption. So every day you do IDT one chapter, you do 1-2 exemptions along with it. So exemptions go parallel. And you start off with the Pinnacle book. Nothing else, guys. You'll need nothing else. You just need our book. That's all. And every day you do IDT, you do exemptions parallel. So secure your 40 marks there. Make sure you're done with those 40 marks there. And all you need to do is do it with another theoretical subject. So if you're doing IDT, do it with some law or some audit or some other subject. And once you're done with IDT, because IDT fair, honestly, it's slightly smaller. With this quick book, the quick book is about 30 pages. And that too, honestly, I've put a lot of question references. If I remove all those, then it's about 27 pages. So 27 pages covers your entire IDT. And of course, you can supplement it, the main book, and then this quick book. And once you're done with IDT, is then you start off with DT. Again with DT, Guys, things like rates of tax. You do one rate of tax every day. So you do individual one day, then you do HUF one day, then you do surcharges one day, like that. Plus, there's a chapter called TDS. There are so many different TDS rates. So what you do is you do two TDSs every day. So make sure whenever you're doing tax, make sure you do rates of tax and make sure you do two TDSs while you're doing the different chapters of tax. Also, tax has to go in the same format, guys. First, the introduction chapter, then the residential status, the same format has to go. Because if you start doing PGBP first without doing basics, you will go a little haywire there. So go in that same pattern. Time for completion, there is no one time for completion, honestly. It depends on how many subjects you're doing alongside. So if you're doing two subjects, or if you're, let's say, doing two and doing accounts also, so it totally depends on you. But honestly, you have good amount of time now that you have clear September, October, November, 3 clear months. You have good amount of time. So for those people who've not looked at tax, honestly, there's no problem. And I was just, while I was actually just prepping for this lecture, I thought I should just tell you about some things that people do, and you probably shouldn't do that at CA inter level on tax. All right, John, putting them on the screen. I could just think of about 4-5 points here. A lot of people just read tax, guys. That's a very big problem. You cannot read tax. You cannot just start going and reading tax, reading the sums. Guys, when you read sums, right, things go super smooth. When you read computation of income, you'll understand everything. The only thing is you have to stop yourself and start solving some sums. And what I mean solving some sums, just one sum for every chapter. That's what you need to do. But you need to start, not read sums, not read tax, but start solving. Also, you can't have very huge gaps between revisions. You can't have very huge gaps. So that's the reason I want to, make sure that you guys do your first reading now. Or if you've already done your first reading, great, you can revise right now. And I also want to do a revision in October. So almost every month you're looking at tax. Do not by heart the sums. Honestly, we get so stuck up to our Pinnacle books or to whichever books you're starting from that you keep looking at those sums again and again. It's great, guys, but that is by hearting sums. And in the exam, when something different comes, you'll be surprised. So try and challenge yourself with newer sums. The test which you've given, those sums, the RTP sums, the examination question sums, those sums are really nice to test yourselves. Guys, some people don't even know what the calculator is. Honestly, if you're one of them where you don't know where the calculator is, maybe it's somewhere else. And when the exams I go for, I'll take the calculator and do my calculations. No, please don't do it. Use the calculator, guys. Get friendly to the calculator. Start using it really, really well while you're doing tax. And another trap is doing multiple books. And that's the reason, honestly, I've not sent you this quick book because I don't want you to have multiple books. Of course, if you have your notes and if you have your main book, that's great. You don't even need the quick book. The quick book is honestly what you should refer to. Guys, we've covered the entire module. We've covered the entire module. Do not worry, because a module honestly tries to explain a lot of things which you already know. So don't waste time chasing the module. Instead, what I would suggest is, instead of chasing the module, finish the Pinnacle book and do more and more sums. If you want to do the module, then after every chapter, there are some sums. Do those sums from the module. All right. And what I will do, guys, just because a lot of people feel, oh, what if I've covered the module or not? What I will do is, when we do that fast track course of 3-4 days, we'll cover the module that time. I have the highlighted parts of the module. Every module is highlighted. I'll just show it to you how this works. Just 1 second. Just 1 second, guys. All right, just showing you something on the screen here. Guys, this is the module, and this is a chapter called supply. So when I do a fast track course, I don't refer to any particular book. I use the module only. So this is the module, and this is the highlighted parts. So if you can see, only the highlighted parts are the ones that you need to read. So on this page, this is 3 lines. The next page, only this. So I've gone through the module entirely, and I've highlighted the parts which are important. And you need to only do the highlighted parts so that you don't land up spending a lot of time on the module. So every chapter like that is summarized. Every chapter is highlighted. So as you see, the entire module, all the important examples, all the important lines have been highlighted. So you can read through the module as well in that manner. But honestly, a big trap would be to follow multiple books. So I'll tell you what books to follow. Honestly, if you've not started studying, do our main Pinnacle book, do the main book plus the main sums. Once you're done with the main book, of course, if you've written the notes, then your notes will be side by side. And the sums, once you're done with it, let's say you're done with IDT, then take RTPs and solve. Take exam questions and solve. Try and do as many chapter wise, maybe not, but once you finish the entire IDT, then you can look at RTPs and examination questions. Guys, anyways, the attempt is, I don't know if they have told you, but I am anyways going to record like the RTP 21, like the Jan and July exam. I'm going to discuss it in a recording and I'm going to share it with you guys. But honestly, keep your book as one book and then just do more and more sums and you'll get better and better at it. All right. And now guys, on to the agenda for today. The agenda for today is amendments. That's what we are here for. Besides any doubt solving also, we can always do that. But right now it's time for amendments. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to start off with DT amendments first. And then from DT amendments, we will go to IDT amendments. All right. So let's begin. I have kept your mics on mute in case at the end, when we do a Q&A after you finish amendments, I'll allow you all to also unmute and ask any question that you might have. But right now, I'm just looking at the DT amendments. The deal with amendments, the deal with amendments is that even if it's missed out during the class, etc., doing it at the end is a great thing to do, because especially now that we're doing it, you will pay special attention to these amendments, and that is what the agenda is. I want you all to pay special attention to amendments, and that's why this session is. First one, guys. In fact, if you've got the sheet, let me just share the sheet only with you guys. Just 1 second. This is IDT. I'll do DT 1 second. Okay. Putting the amendment sheet on the screen so that we can directly do it from here. This is the CA inter amendments for May and November 21. Of course, now July and December 21, ignore that. Anyway, so but before we do that, let me just tell you the entire trajectory that you already know in DT. Guys, everyone leave whatever you're doing aside and now focus on this trajectory of what it is to calculate tax in DT. In the first exam sum, you will have to figure the person's legal status. Whether person is an individual, a partnership firm, an HUF, a company, what that person is. Along with the age, if it's an individual, you also should know the age, because depending upon age, your deductions matter. Depending upon age, your tax rate matters. Then if they've given you the exam, they've given you that person is a resident or non-resident, great. Otherwise, you'll have to figure the residential status. Guys, residential status depends on how many days he's staying, depends upon control and management. That is what we need to define. So the surgeon, if you remember, turned out to be a resident and he started crying because his entire global income was taxable in India. Once you know his residential status, then you have to throw the net and find out which all incomes are taxable. So you basically need to find out the scope of income. Basically, what it means is which incomes are taxable for him. For a resident, the entire global income is taxable. Then you also have certain income which are deemed income. If you still remember ISSD, IRF gifts, those are 8 incomes which they thought that, listen, these incomes, even if there is a confusion, India wants to tax it, so we'll tax it. So these basically are your scope of income and deemed income. This is your residential status. Once you're done with that, then there are 5 heads of income, starting with salaries. Let me tell you a little secret about salaries, guys. Salaries seems very difficult, but honestly, if you see the examination questions, the weightage of salary in the examination questions officially is a little high, but unofficially, when you see the examination questions, there is very little salaries they ask. And that too, I have not seen in recent 4-5 years, I have not seen them asking them retirement benefits. I have not seen them giving you this, payment of gratuity act calculation. All that they avoid, but still you're preparing and you should prepare the best. So this is salaries. Salaries will have SAP minus SEP. That means, guys, you have to calculate the salary, you have to calculate the allowances, you have to calculate the perquisites, and then you have to minus the standard deduction, the entertainment allowance deduction, and the professional tax deduction. Then comes IFHP. IFHP, enough, guys, enough attention is paid on IFHP already, and in the exam, they love IFHP. Whether you let it out and municipality figures the standard, 3 deductions, no limits on whatever interest deductions there are, or whether you have SOP, which is nil, only thing is interest deduction, maximum 2 lakh or 30,000, that too you have shortcuts like certify 5 accounts for 99. Or it is LOP plus SOP, which you know is also LOP, or it is deemed LOP, anything, guys. Here between section 22 to section 27, they can ask anything, but they love IFHP. A dedicated sum on IFHP could definitely be something that they asked you in the 60 marks of DT. Then comes PGBP. In PGBP, they will give you the first question itself will be PGBP. They will give you incomes. That person could be someone who's a manufacturer of furniture. That person could be a chartered accountant. That person could be a doctor. They will give you incomes, but in the incomes, they will give you capital gain. In the incomes, they will give you dividend. So remove all those incomes. They will give you expenses, but in the expenses, they will give you some personal expenses. They will give you some expenses related to house property. They will give you some expenses related to your personal car. Remove all of that. They will give you some expenses on which TDS has been deducted but not paid, on which you made cash payments more than 10,000. Remove all of that because they are disallowed. And finally, you get the profits and gains from business and profession. Remember, only when it's PGBP will you want to audit your books of accounts. Only when it's PGBP you will want to maintain, arrange your accounts, as the others don't have to get themselves audited. If you're in salary, never audit. If you're in IFHP, never. Capital gain, never. IFOS, never. Only in PGBP, you need to audit your books and you need to arrange your accounts. And here there is a relaxation of presumptive taxation, which is also important from a CA inter perspective, especially 44A is something that they frequently resort to a question. Then capital gain can be a nice 4-mark question where they give you an asset. The moment you are selling an asset, guys, please look at a short form ATSCP. You should just have to identify, guys, there is an asset. You just have to see the word sold, exchanged, relinquished, transferred. You have to just identify the sale price, but be careful. If it's land and building you're selling, you need to check it. If it's unlisted shares, then again CA 50 CA. And if you say it's not determinable, then you determine using FMP. The cost of acquisition or the cost of improvement which you have incurred on an asset needs to be minused. And period of holding is 1 year, 2 year, and 3 year. Again, we have shortcuts, so remember those. That will help you determine your capital gain. Once you've determined your capital gain, the second step is there a way to save it? Are you selling a house property and buying another house? Are you selling a barren agricultural land and buying another agricultural land? Are you selling your family's assets like shares, jewelry, land, and buying another house property? So if it's one of those, then you will go under section 54 series and you will save yourself from capital gains till whatever you can. And after that, guys, the government expects certain amount of tax on capital gain. Short-term capital gain, normal tax. But long-term capital gain, they like you because you're holding assets for really long. So they tax you only at 20%, and that too after indexation. And if you're listed UU, then 10% and 15%. I hope you remember that. I hope that recollects some part. This is section 45 to section 55. Again, guys, just like salaries, even capital gain is a huge chapter. But honestly, the importance in the exam, you'll be able to easily identify the questions with ATSCP. Last is IFOS, which is just like PGBP, but a younger brother of IFOS is IFOS, where you have incomes, which is a shortcut. In retirement/death, I will receive some welfare gifts from insurance contracts. You have some expenses, will, repair, pick in general. You have some disallowances, those expenses, poor will wins cash income, which are not allowed, and you have some deemed incomes. So that is how you will get IFOS. But in IFOS, very important are those 10 gifts that Miss B got on her birthday. Also now guys, from your year, dividend is taxable. So keep that in mind. You will get incomes from all the heads. Remember, every income minus every expense is the final amount they want to tax. Once you do all of that, then it's time to do clubbing. It's time to almost celebrate the literal clubbing. So you need to actually take other people's money and put it in your income. 60, 61 till 64, you have clubbing of income. ICI's favorite is your minor children, whose clubbing you add into yours, whichever parent has more income. You also can transfer income to your wife, which comes back, or to your son's wife, which also comes back. One question on set off is definite, and there you go to the blood bank and you take blood from your within the family. But unless you have unique blood, otherwise you can take from within the family. If that is not enough, you go to outsiders, you knock on other doors and you take blood. Example, sometimes you can be very friendly but shy. Sometimes you can be semi-friendly, sometimes you can be non-friendly. I hope you recollect things from this time. And if that is also not possible, your blood requirement is still left, then you can go to again to carry it forward to the next years, and you can continue in the next years. Remember, unabsorbed depreciation can be set off against anything except salaries. Casual income can never be touched, and things like that we are still in set off chapter. After that was gross total income, which there was no chapter, it was just a number. But this number was very important because from this number, you would minus deductions. So from gross total income, those incomes which are subject to flat rate like 20%, 10%, 15% capital gain or casual income were not available, and the remaining was available for deductions. And then you get into deductions, very, very important deductions. In deductions, you have 80C to 80G, where you give money to others, where you give money for insurance, where you give money to PPF, where you give money to an NPS, where you give money for medical insurance, where you give money for easy electric bikes. So where you give money for donations, all of that is when you give money, so you invest. And only 380 JJA, 80 QQB, and 80 RRB, honestly, are towards income. You have some income, and because of that, you are getting a deduction. These are deductions, very, very important, but deductions only if there is available GTI. And then you get to total income, which is basically the one which is used to which multiply rates of tax. So that is your total income, which you will use to multiply rates of tax. Rates of tax, guys, every day when you revise DT or when you studying for DT, every day you do one rates of tax. Next, guys, how do you pay that tax? Is through TDS, which has many, many sections. Remember Calorie Cafe and remember that story. If you've forgotten, I've given the shortcuts in the quick book. TCS, whereby they collect some tax, the seller collects some tax, and then there is advance tax, whereby just send demanded money. Where you have 4 installments and you got to pay the installments, this is where you need to pay your tax. Is it a separate amount? No, it's your tax only, it's your amount only, you're just paying it differently. After that, guys, after deductions, after total income, you will need to file your return of income, and that's where the buck stops. Some people have to file their returns compulsorily, like companies and firms. The others have to file if their income is above the basic exemption limit, unless they are coffee drinkers, COFE. Shortcuts, shortcuts, shortcuts. You have tax return preparers, boys who will help you. You have defective return. You have people who sign their return. You have self-assessment tax you pay, and you have, if you pay or file your return late, you have some negative repercussions, like you have to pay a fee, you have to pay interest, losses cannot be carried forward and stuff like that. And that is your DT. Now let's see what has changed in DT, guys. Now let's see what has changed in DT. Now I did that so that we can look at this in slightly better way. The computation of total income and tax liability. So once you compute a total income, how do you calculate the tax? No change in the slab rate, surcharge and HAC. That's a good thing. So no changes. But what they've done is only for individuals and HUFs, they've got a new section 115 BAC, which is in my video, YouTube video, it's a better available choice or better alternate choice. What is the better part? The first better part is the slabs have become very steady. 2.5 lakh, 2.5 to 5, 5 to 7.5, 7.5 to 10, 10 to 12.5. So the slabs have become very steady. The second good part is that the rates have become very steadily increasing, 0 to 5, 5 to 10, 10 to 15. So even now it's more than 30% tax, but that is later. You have various different rates. So it's a very gradual increase in rates and in the tax slabs. And the third good point is here, I'm jumping to the third good point, that there is no alternate minimum tax that you need to pay if you opt for this option. Guys, what was the alternate minimum tax? It was that Tata Power coming to your house saying that your electricity bill is too low. Can you pay certain more amount? We'll give you a credit, and the credit can be taken forward for 15 years. But if everything is good, there must be some catch. Yes, there is a catch. A lot of deductions you do not get. You do not get a lot of deductions. If you go headwise, in IFOS, you do not get family planning pension deduction. In capital gain, there is nothing, life is good. In PGBP, you do not get additional scientist developed awesome covaxin. You do not get these deductions. So additional depreciation you don't get. Scientific research, but the outsiders one you don't get, where you write checks to outsiders. USIN, scientific associations, companies who are doing scientific research, you don't get the deduction. Also develop 3580 super fast bike, that you don't get. Awesome area 10A, that is for those 15 years, if you remember. 10A benefit that you don't get. And covaxin, which is basically more you will see at this or final level, where you specify, spend money for rural development, for agri development, etc. The ones in yellow are some things that you will do at CA final. That is PGBP. In IFHP, a very small thing, but a very important thing. If you're a SOP property, then you don't get 24B. Unfortunately, that you don't get. For salaries, you don't get any deduction. Your SEP have gone out of the window. Your leave travel concession, your HRA exemption, your HRA does hurt heartbeat, can hurt heartbeat, all that has gone away except for blind can do tours. So blind people, if they get allowance, they will still get an exemption. Conveyance, daily, and tour and transfer. If you get allowance, then the amount you spend, you will get deduction, exemption. So only these remain, otherwise everything is taken away. In clubbing chapter, you don't get 1032 exemption. In set off and loss chapter, you all these ahead, the losses that we've spoken about, the expense that we've spoken about, in relation to that, if there is any expense that in relation to those expenses, if there's any carry forward. Example, let's say you had additional depreciation, but you did not have profits to set it again, so it's carried forward, that will disappear. Let's say you had 3580 specified business, in relation to that you had carried forward, that will disappear. Let's say you had a house property SOP, on that you had a loss which was being carried forward, that will disappear. There are a lot of exemptions, guys. We had a story around every exemption, but 1017, the MP MLA allowance, that exemption you will not get. And in deductions, a major hit to people, no deductions you get except to job, add, because the government really wants to create jobs. And 80 CCD2, that is your master's contribution that you will still get. That is 80 CCD2. All right. You can exercise this option anytime, guys. Even today, if I'm filing my return today, that is the 3rd of September, I can exercise the option today. Also, there is no problem with that. But generally, if you're in a job, because your master has to deduct TDS, you tell him in advance that I want to follow this option, so you can deduct TDS accordingly. But if you're in PGBP, you can opt for this whenever you want, but you get out of it, the door closes forever. So it only opens once you get in. The moment you get out, it closes till you have PGBP. Once your PGBP is done, and let's say you retire, your business shuts down, then you can again get into it. But for PGBP people, once you get out, you can't go back again. Next, guys, is section 80M. 80M is a very simple and a very nice amendment. Let me just tell you what this M is. Just one second. Guys, if there are any questions, you can just mark a question on the screen on the chat box. That's perfectly fine. Let's do 80M, guys. Everyone on the board on the screen, 80M. Guys, you are Reliance Industries Limited. You are in the middle, and you've just got dividend from Jio. Jio has declared a dividend, let's say of 100 crores, and let's say you are the only holder or you are one of the holders, so you get 100 crores dividend. As you know, dividend is now taxable in the hands of the person who gets it. So Reliance will be taxed on this 100 crores. So in IFOS, they will be taxed on that 100 crores. Now what Reliance does it takes that 100 crores plus it adds its own 200 crores. So let's say 75 crores. So it declares 175 crores as dividend to its shareholders. Now again, these shareholders are taxed on IFOS. Different shareholders, including you, including me, including other people, they'll be taxed, and they'll be taxed 175 crores, which seems okay, but there is some double taxation happening here because, guys, Reliance is in the middle. They're taking money, paying tax on it, paying it to you, you again paying tax on it. So there is a double taxation. So hence, section 80M. 80 means reduction, M means middle. Because you're in the middle and you earn dividend and you're also distributing dividend, I understand that there is some double taxation. Guys, imagine this 100 crores has been subject to tax twice, 100 here also and 100 out part of this also. So hence the government says, I understand Reliance. My intention is to tax it only once. You also pay tax and shareholders have also paid tax at different stages. So I will give you a deduction under 80M. Reliance says, how will you give me the reduction? So do you say that you calculate your GTI, you calculate your entire GTI, that means IFOS, PGBP, capital gain, salaries, everything you add, and let's say that is 420 crores. From that, you can minus 100 crores. Because you declared 175. What if instead of 175, you only declared 75? Then you only minus 75. That is basically the amount of dividend you receive or the amount of dividend you distribute, whichever is less. So let's say you minus only 75. Then what about 25? Don't worry, we'll give it to you next year. We'll give it to you next year. Guys, this one, honestly, they have not put it, but because they put it in the amendment sheet somewhere, I thought we'll just do it. You never know with MCQs now if they want to ask this question. So just doing this. Very simple. It's nothing difficult. I'm just going to read it on the screen and I'm going to show you what they are trying to tell you. This one could be something that they ask at an MCQ level. So let's just do this. It's a very simple thing. If any domestic company, RIL, has received dividend from any other domestic company or foreign company or business trust, that means money can come in from anywhere, dividend can come in from anywhere to Reliance, and Reliance has paid tax on it. In such cases, deduction shall be allowed. So 80M deduction shall be allowed to the extent dividend has been distributed by such company to others. So if you distributed 75, you only get 75. But if you distributed 175, you'll get the entire 100. So amount distributed or the amount that you receive, whichever is less. And if you get less, don't worry, that amount will get next year. The intention of the government is, guys, if you get money in one pocket and the government taxes you, and you remove that money and you give it to someone and the government taxes them also, that's double taxation. So it has to be paid and not declared, right? It has to be paid, distributed. The word is distributed, has been distributed, and distributed not by the year end, but the return filing due date. So that's the reason the word is distributed by such company to others, but it cannot exceed the amount of dividend received up to the date of last filing return of income. Basically, let's put dates here. If Reliance has earned this income during the year 2021 and they have paid dividend on, let's say, the 5th of June 21, will they still be able to take this deduction? Yes, because the dividend has been distributed by the return on or before the return filing due date. Let's see here. ABC Limited has received dividend of 1 crore from a domestic company or a foreign company or a business trust in the year 2021. and it has distributed dividend of 60 lakhs, then if you given dividend of 60 lakhs, you will get a deduction of 60 lakhs. Deduction allowed under section 80M will be 60 lakhs. But if the dividend distributed is 1 crore 50, then you'll get the entire 1 crore as a deduction. That is 80M. How will you remember? M is for middle. If you're in the middle and you earn dividend and you have to pay dividend, generally applies to companies because other people don't declare dividend. It's only companies who declare dividend. All right. The next thing is something that all of us know. Indexation for the financial year 2021 is 301. This is used when you do indexation and capital gains. Remember, a couple of people don't get indexation. Listed UU does not get indexation. Bonds and debentures don't get indexation unless you're sovereign gold bonds or unless you're inflation index bonds. If you've not got this document, don't worry. Guys, I'm just making a list of things I will send you today. Just 1 second. I will send you the QuickBooks today of both DT and IDT. DT and IDT. And I will tell you these amendment sheets also. Don't worry about it. Okay. All right. Next, guys, is the residential status. If you're looking at residential status, guys, this residential status has been done many number of times with examples. The first thing they've amended is they put a new section. This is called 6A, not 69A. Just 1 second. I can't make changes right now, but I will make changes later. So this one. Perfect. This is section 68, 6A, 61A. If you remember, there is some guy who is very rich. He has Indian income of more than 15 lakh rupees. And worldwide, he's not being taxed. Worldwide, if you remember this amendment we had already done when we did residential status, let me just quickly recap this amendment. If you're an Indian citizen, yes, only Indian citizen, yes. This was not Junior Modi, honestly. This was the other guy who has a lot of incomes. He stays 30 days in India, 30 days in Singapore, 30 days in London, that guy. So if you're an Indian citizen and you're, because of your stay, an Indian citizen, of course, rich, more than 15 lakhs of Indian income. And if you're not taxed in any country as a resident, you are taxed, but as a resident, you're not taxed anywhere, then India says, listen, you're an Indian citizen. If no one is accepting you, jiska koi nahi, uska India, I will tax you. So India will tax it, but only as a RNOR. This, they have introduced a separate section, which is called section 618. And what is this Indian income, guys? Indian income is what you know as dear income. Indian income is what you and me know as dear income. This is one of the best shortcuts. This is an award-winning shortcut, guys. Dear income. What you and know as dear income, that is what is Indian income. If that Indian income is more than 15 lakhs, only then will you subject him to 618. Next, guys, was Junior Modi. Next was Junior Modi and Vijay Mallya's son Siddharth Mallya. They would live in India, but they would live very close to that 182, less than that mark, so that they're never residents in India. They're always non-residents. So for them, Indian citizen or PIO, Junior Modi or Siddharth Mallya, who are rich, that means Indian income greater than 15 lakhs here also. But the difference is here there is PIO as well. And if they stay, if they have Indian income of 15 lakh, the second basic condition too will become applicable to them. But the second basic condition was this. In this second basic condition, 60 days will be replaced by 120 days and this will become applicable to them. I hope you remember this one also. We've done this with an example. What is the difference between the first amendment and this? This one also includes a PIO. That one only included Indian citizen. This one makes the second basic condition applicable. That one, there is no basic condition. Jiska koi nahi, uska India. If you're not being taxed anywhere, I will tax you automatically as an RN. What is the similarity? Indian income greater than 15 lakhs is a similarity. Both should have that. And both are RNOR. That's the similarity. Both are RNOR. That's the similarity. All right. Next, guys, is this business connection. Honestly, because at CA inter level, they don't want to tax you on your non-resident, non-residents, they don't want to tax, because what are they going to ask you at CA final otherwise? And hence, I don't think this is a very important thing, but we'll still discuss it in a very, very nice manner, Guys, we had discussed a section called section 911. 9.1 was ISSD IRF. In that, the first one was a business connection. If you recollect a little bit of business connection, there is a company called OnePlus in China, and they have an agent in India. And the agent has sold 10 lakh phones, but still we can't tax OnePlus because OnePlus is not there in India. OnePlus is there in China. And OnePlus says, listen, I'm not there in India, you can't tax me. So we tell that this agent, because he is dependent agent, that means he's dependent on OnePlus, and he has the ability to conclude contracts, negotiate contracts, secure orders, etc. That means he's a powerful agent. He can do a lot of things on behalf of OnePlus. Then we had said that this guy will be called a business connection. And from him, whatever income OnePlus is earning, that we'll tax it in India, that we'll deem to tax in India under section 911. Remember, we are snatching this income. So we're snatching this income from OnePlus, saying that this is through a business connection in India, and hence we are going to tax you in India. Remember, OnePlus is China, guys. China means it's a non-resident foreign company. This income is not earned in India. This income is not accruing in India. This income is also maybe received abroad. So how can we tax it? 911 gives us the right to tax it. The Thailand resort, yes, a Thai resort is the same example. The OnePlus is the same example as a Thai resort. Thai resort also was in Thailand, but had an agent in India who would get the booking. So same thing. Perfect. But now, what is business income in India? They have expanded the scope of business income in India for the Thai resort agent or for this agent. What else is business income? Not just selling mobile phones, but also selling ads targeting such customers, selling data targeting such customers, or selling of goods and services using the above data is also. So basically, what if the agent says that, listen, I have not sold any mobile phones. I've only sold mobile phones worth 10 lakhs. Okay. But have you sold ads? And are these ads targeting the Indian customers? Yes. So then whatever income you get from that, that also is Indian income. Have you sold data of these people? Yes. Then that also. And have you sold phones using IP address in India? Yes. So then that also. So ads, data, and IP address, three things. Ads targeting Indian customers, data of Indian customers, and IP address of India. If any of that is being used, being sold, and income from that also will be Indian income. I'll repeat this one last time, guys. We have a Thailand resort. Let's go back to the Thailand resort example. We have a Thai resort. The Thai resort is in Thailand. It's not in India. They say, I'm foreign. I'm not going to be taxed in India. The services are given in Thailand. The income is earned, accrued, received in Thailand. Why should the agent be taxed? Because the agent is a business connection. So how many weddings did the agent get done? The agent got done 100 weddings. So 1 crore rupees is the Indian income. But besides that, if the agent took the ads, basically sold ads and earned some money targeting these customers, then sale of those ads will also be added to that 1 crore. If the agent sold some data, then that also. And if he said that, listen, I've not sold it to Indian consumers, but have you used Indian IP address and done sales, then even that will be added. So people could say that, listen, I'm not selling it to Indian residents, but are you using Indian ads and getting sales from Indian ads? Are you selling data and earning income, or are you selling using the IP address in India? Then in this case, these three things will also be added to the 1 crore to determine the Indian income of that agent, of that Thai resort. Not honestly very important, because this is more a CA final concept, not a CA inter concept. But still, because they've discussed 911 and you also studied it with me, ISSD IRF, it's good that you know. And just one more thing, guys, Netflix does not have an agent in India. Let's say Netflix does not have an office in India. Netflix is in the US. I'm just changing the example now. Just one last thing. Let's say there is Netflix USA. They don't have an agent in India. They don't have an agent in India whom you can call a business connection. So how will you tax him? Netflix is selling lakhs of subscriptions in India, crores of subscriptions in India, and not getting taxed. I'm not saying Netflix does not have an office in India. I'm saying assume Netflix does not have an office in India. They have crores of people who subscribe to them. The money is going to US. Netflix is saying it's earned abroad, accruing abroad, received abroad. We say we will deem it in India if you have significant economic presence. And what is significant economic presence? If you have a certain number of downloads in India, or if you have a certain number of users in India, then we'll have significant economic. What is that certain number is not defined yet. So certain number is not defined, and hence this concept is only an MCQ concept. That is for digital companies like Spotify, Netflix, we can tax them in India using the significant economic presence concept. All right. Moving ahead, guys. Deductions chapter. There is 80 EEA, easy EMI again. In that the house can be now, the loan can be sanctioned. Earlier it was only from 19 to 20. Now they've increased it to 19 to 21, and that's the reason it is applicable to your year. 80G, now we have PM CARES fund because of COVID. So that has been added to the list. We already know Army CARES cleans Ganga. 80GGA, I told you GG around, give around. In that case, you can give cash, but maximum 2000. As GGB, GGC, you can't give cash because you're giving to political parties. They anyways have so much cash. So no cash allowed in 80 GGB. Remember, GG bada and GG chota. Give bada and give chota. All these shortcuts, they sound stupid, honestly, but they'll help you remember. And that's the deal, guys. That's the deal. Surcharge, guys. There is an inhuman surcharge of 25% and 37%. If you remember, there are 4 surcharge rates now for individuals, HUFs, AOPBOI, AJPs. There are 4 surcharges, but these last 2 are inhuman. And hence, thankfully, the government said that on long-term capital gain 112A, on short-term capital gain 112A, and on dividend income, these 2 inhuman surcharges will not be applicable. So even if you have more than 2 crore, more than 5 crore of income from this, the maximum will be 10%, sorry, 15%. Next is dividend income, which we've done really well. So I don't think you should have any problem with dividend income. When you get dividend has only one direction, that is IFOS. Again, like dividend you get from shares. Just like that, guys, if you get any income from mutual funds, that is also taxable under IFOS. Same in the hands of the recipient now. From your year it started, and hence it's very important. And you know there are 5 deemed dividend: A, B, C, D, E. A for assets distribution, B for bonds giving out, but bonds and debentures, preference shares, not equity shares. C is when you're closing the company. D is when a decrease in share capital. E is the extreme situation when you're taking a loan. These can be deemed dividend. All right, not too many, honestly. 194 is TDS on dividends. Guys, now that dividends is taxable, when a company declares dividend to you, is it taxable? Yes, in your hands. So hence the company has to deduct TDS. If you remember, guys, whether it's 193 or 194 or 194A or 194K, what is this? This is interest on debentures. This is dividend. This is interest from a bank. This is interest from Kotak mutual fund. All these are incomes, and I told you one shortcut that all incomes are subject to tax TDS rate of 10%. Of course, subject to COVID discount, but the TDS rate is 10%. So that's what they're just telling you here, that since dividend income is now taxable, TDS will be deducted on the same at an average rate of 10% above 5,000 per company. So if Reliance is paying you 7,000, they will deduct 10%. But if they're paying you 3,000, they will not deduct 10% because only above 5,000 per company. However, if in the exam they say cash dividend, then this 5,000 threshold is not there because they want to punish cash dividend. So even if you get 3,000 rupees cash dividend, there will be TDS. Please remember, guys, that the discount, there's a COVID discount under section 197B because a bad thing happened. That discount is on from 14th May to 31st March. Perfect. Moving ahead, tax audit. Guys, in case of tax audit, earlier, tax audit basically means 4480, audit the books. Earlier, we had only one limit for businessmen, 1 crore. Now we have two limits. Now we have two limits, 1 crore and 5 crore. And because of that, we cannot say small individual and small HUF are those which are not auditable. Remember in TDS, we keep referring to small individual, small HUF, it's not applicable. So what is small individual, small HUF? Now, small individual, small HUF are those people who in the last year, not this year, in the last year, their turnover was up to 1 crore for business and 50 lakhs for profession. So what has changed? Earlier, we would say they are those people who is not subject to audit, but now we can't use that because audit has two limits. So we can't use that term that they were not subject to audit. We have to use a term that in the last year, the turnover is up to 1 crore or 50 lakhs. Only in that case, they will be called small individuals, small individuals. And remember, some sections are not applicable to SI and SF. Example, 194C is not applicable to them. 194J justify his case. Those are not applicable to them. Some more also not applicable to small individuals, small individuals. 194J, guys, are those jealous professionals. If you remember, the surgeon was paying professionals and he used to say that professionals are always jealous of each other. The rate is 10%, but it has been reduced to 2% for some people, like call centers, technical services, and even technical fee and even royalty. This royalty is only on movies. I'll change that also, royalty on movies. Just 1 second. Just a second, guys. I'm just going to make a note. Perfect. All right, and just like you had 194, guys, you have 194K also. 194 was when a company gave you dividend. 194K is when a mutual fund gives you income. It's the same thing, guys. Whether you go directly from Matunga, you come to Bandra, that is directly, that is buying shares, or whether you take a stop at BKC, it's coming indirectly. Still, guys, it's the same thing. So whether you're buying shares and you're getting dividend, we haven't received this PDF, no problem, guys. In Pinnacle, these are already included, guys. These are already included in the book, and hence they've not given you these in the PDF. I will send you this PDF. Don't worry. I made a note. This and the quick book. Guys, this is there. If you open your book and you see 194K, it's already there in your book. So in 194K, any mutual fund giving you income more than 5,000, 10% TDS. All right. So that is 194K. Then is 194O. O is for online. That means if Calorie Cafe sells goods on Zomato, guys, if you sell Calorie Cafe food on Zomato, then Zomato will pay them, but they will deduct 1%. I hope you remember that. That was when on e-commerce. But for individual, the nature of selling up to 5 lakhs, that TDS is not there. This is already included in your book, and that's the reason they've not given you a separate sheet for all these. Guys, if you remember, in TDS chapter, you have to give your PAN, because if KBC, or let's say if the Calorie Cafe is paying you something, they have to pay to the government also, and they have to quote your PAN number. So what if you don't give your PAN number? If you don't give your PAN number, they will deduct TDS at a higher rate, generally 20%. But that is given in a section called section 206 AA. The shortcut for AA is always anonymous. In some cases like salary, it is at MMR, and in some cases it is not there, only this section. So guys, generally under section 206A, it is at 20%. But in one case of 194O, O is online, where it's anyways only 1%. So from 1% to 20% will be a big deal. So not 20%, but there it's 10%, 5%. So again, I repeat, give your PAN. If you don't give your PAN, punishment. MMR, it can be at MMR. In certain cases like 192 salary and 192A, it can be at MMR. Most of the others is at 20%, but in case of 194A, it is very inhuman to take it from 1 to 20%. So they say we'll cap it at 5%, only for 194. And this is given in a section called 206AA, that is always anonymous. All right. Guys, the next thing is section 139.1. The next one is section 139.1. In 139.1, we have just discussed that you need to file a return of income by 31st July, by 31st October, if you're subject to audit, or by 30th November. This is at CA final, you'll see when you go to transfer pricing. But by 31st October, guys, by 31st October, who gets this extended time? Those who are subject to audit. So let's say there is a partnership firm who is subject to audit. So their partnership firm's deadline is 31st October. And only once the partnership firm, guys, only once the partnership firm is finalized, will the partners know how much to include in their income. Because as you know, guys, the partnership firm will pay salary interest up to a certain limit, interest up to 12%, salary up to certain limits, and only that is taxable in the hands of the partners. So once the partnership firm finalizes itself, only then can the partners finalize themselves. And hence, when the partnership firm is auditable, even the partners get extended due date. That is, what is the due date for the partners also then? For the partners also, it's 31st October. Working as well as non-working, yes, working as well as non-working, both partners get 31st October. Earlier, it was only working partner. Now both partners, I'll repeat this one last time, partnership firm. Okay. What's the due date? Depends whether it's auditable. If it's auditable, then 31st October. So yes, if it's auditable, then partnership firm gets 31st October. Guys, only when the partnership firm gets finalized. It's like you going for a holiday with your parents. Only when the parents book their tickets will your tickets be booked. How can your tickets be booked on a different date? So only when the partnership firm is audited and finalized, only then when you can finalize your partner as a partner, you can finalize your return. So hence both of them will get the extended due date if they're auditable. If partnership firm is not auditable, then 31st July, and even the partners have 31st July. The next one is something that we have done enough number of times. There are 3 sections. Gift taxation, 1 section. PGBP 43CA and capital gain 50C. All these sections, guys, compare your land and building value with the stamp duty value. If you remember, the surgeon's wife got a flat worth 1 crore for 75 lakhs. So in that case, in gift taxation, the person who's receiving it, and in PGBP and capital gain, the one who's selling it, transferring it. In that case, earlier this limit was 5%. Now it has been increased to 10%. That's the change. We've seen it many number of times in our books. Last few, guys. Okay. Guys, cost of acquisition is used in the case of ATSCP. And in cost of acquisition, if you remember cost of acquisition well, if there is any cost before 1/4/2001, that means many years back you bought an asset. Let's say you bought a flat many years back before 1/4/2001, or you bought gold many years back. In that case, you can take the fair market value as on 1/4/2001, if you remember that. But in case of land building, there is a small change. In case of land and building, if you bought it before 1/4/2001, you can take the FMV as on 1/4/2001. FMV means how much you can sell that flat for, but that should not be more than SDV. So SDV is the ceiling. So in the exam, they will question you on this for sure, because it's a very important change. They will give you that you sold an office that you bought many years back. You bought the office in 1997 and you bought the office for 5 lakhs. You're selling it now in 2021. The fair market value of this office on 1/4/2001 was 8 lakhs. And the stamp duty value was 7 lakhs. Calculate capital gain. So what you will do is ATSCP. Is there an asset? Yes. Office. Is it being sold? Yes. What is the sale price? Whatever it is, let's say 50 lakhs. What is the cost? Now stop. Guys, cost you can take 5 lakh or 8 lakh, whichever is higher. So you'll take 8 lakh. But because it's land and building, it cannot be more than the stamp duty value. So you'll take 7 lakhs. So will you automatically take 7? No, that's a ceiling, guys. That's the maximum. It cannot be more than that. So you'll take FMV, but it cannot be more than the SDV. That is what they're talking about here in this amendment that happened in Finance Act 2020. All right. So you will continue to take FMV, but it should not be more than stamp duty value. Is this one also we've done? This one says that if your turnover goes more than 1 crore, and in case of 5 crores, if your payments are very low, cash payments less than 5, maximum 5% cash payments. That means, guys, earlier, if a businessman had 1.2 crores, he had to audit his books of accounts. Now, if he has 4.2 crores also turnover, he cannot audit it. He has an option. If his cash payments are low, how low? Maximum 5%. And his cash receipts both are low. That is, cash payments and cash receipts both have to be low. How low? Maximum 5%. This is the one which is there in your books. Honestly, guys, it's so funny how the Income Tax Act works. If you read this amendment, you will get so massively confused. This is such a confusing amendment. I don't know if you attempted to read this amendment or not, but it is so massively confusing, but it's actually so simple. I'm going to simplify this in a very, very big way. Give me 2 minutes. Let's do the last one. Last one, guys, is just 2 form numbers, which is actually not an amendment. These are some things that, just yesterday someone was asking me a question, so I thought I'll add it to this list. So someone asked me a question, what is this Form 15H and Form 15G? Generally, it's not in your CA Inter portion, but because they asked in the RTP, suddenly people got interested in what this form is. So let me tell you. If you earn income from a bank, which means interest income, and let's say your income is 2 lakh rupees interest income, the bank will deduct TDS. Yes, the bank has a section called Section 194A. And because this amount is more than 40,000, let's say you're a senior citizen, then 50,000, the bank will deduct TDS at the rate of 10%. Of course, COVID discount 7.5%, otherwise 10%. So the bank will deduct 20,000. Now, but let's assume, guys, you are either 20 years old or you're 65 years old. Let's assume both. In both cases, if this is your only income, or your income with this is a little more, and you're never going to pay, you're never going to cross the basic exemption limit. Now, guys, you don't want to file your return. Neither does he want to file, neither does he want to file. Why? Because the interest income is only 2 lakh. Plus, let's say he has some dividend income, other income, let's say of 20,000 more. So his total income is only 2 lakh 20. So why should he file his return? But the bank has already deducted TDS. He's not supposed to file his return. He's not supposed to pay tax, but the bank has already deducted TDS. So he'll have to now engage a CA, pay the CA, file the return, wait for the TDS to come. And that's a very, very cumbersome process. It's a stupid process. So the government says, we understand your problem. You don't have too much income above your basic exemption limit. So you don't want to file your return. You don't want to be taxed because you're not supposed to be taxed. So there should be no TDS in your case. Yes. So please submit a form called 15H and 15G to the bank, and they will not deduct TDS. 15H is for senior citizens and 15G is for anyone who's not a senior citizen. How do you remember? H is high. If your age is high, then you fill form 15H. H is high age. And the other, of course, is the low age. So high age, and the other one is, of course, the low one. That's a shortcut to remember. Otherwise, people get confused which one is for whom. With that, guys, honestly, I wanted to do both amendments together today, DT and IDT. But considering the time that we have, I don't want to push IDT amendments today. The same way like we did discuss DT amendments, I probably want to plug in a 1.5 hour session, discuss IDT, because I straight away jumping into amendments is a difficult thing. So I want to just go through the chapters just like we went through, the sheet here. Just like we went through the sheet here, I would want to go through return of IDT as well. And then I would want to do the amendments. So what we will do is we'll finish off this amendment today. We started off at about 12:30. We'll finish off this amendment. We'll take any questions that you guys have, and then we'll call it a day. And I will plug in a 1.5 hour session either tomorrow or on Monday, whenever at this time. And we will also do the IDT amendments because I don't want to rush through IDT amendments just at the same time like these amendments. So let's finish these. Just one last amendment left. All right. I'll just take a 2 minute away. I'll just take 2 minutes away. I'll come back. No, in fact, we can take a 5 minute break. We've been here for 1.5, 1 hour, 15 minutes. What we'll do is, guys, we'll take 5 minutes away. We'll come back. Just this last amendment is left. We'll discuss that, but I want you guys to just keep fresh for this amendment. Very important and something which might seem complicated, but it's not. It's very, very simple. 5 minutes and we'll start this one. If you have any questions after that, we'll take and then we'll call it a day. We'll do IDT amendments in the next session because I think you'll have another session at 3 o'clock. So I don't want to push IDT amendments there. 5 minutes and we'll be back. Thank you so much. All right, and I'm back. I'm back. Guys, let's do this last one amendment. This one is on DT. But before that, guys, I just want to tell you something related to this. So if you understand this better, I'll just give you a small example. Guys, you're supposed to earn 100 rupees. If you're supposed to earn 100 rupees in your bank. And the government says we will not tax it. So no tax on 100 rupees. But if you get more than that, we will want to tax the extra. What if you get 120, guys? What if you get 120? How much will the government tax? Just logic, simple. The government said that if you get 100 rupees in your bank account, no tax. But if you get something extra, he'll tax you, and someone paid you 120. So you will be taxed on the rupees 20, you will be taxed. Perfect. Now that means guys, this is the excess money you are being taxed. All right. Guys, I didn't get any replies on such a basic comment, so I hope people are understanding what I'm saying. I'll just try once again. So if you get 100 rupees in your bank account, there is no tax on it. Up to 100, there is no tax, but you got 120 in your bank account. So how much will be taxed? How much will be taxed? 20 rupees will be taxed. I'm just parking the taxed amount. 20 rupees will be taxed. But because it's in a bank, guys, will you also earn interest? Yes. So let's say you earned interest of 12 rupees. Now again, this 12, 10 I will not tax, but 2 I will tax, because that 2, guys, that 2 belongs to the excess 20. I'll show you diagrammatically. You got 120. Out of that 120, 100 they did not tax, 20 they taxed you. This was the money that you got in your bank account. But on this 120, throughout the year, you earned 12 rupees interest. Now the interest also the same thing on 100 rupees. If you get 120, on 120, if you earn 12 rupees, so that means 10 they will not tax, and 2 rupees they will tax. So I'm adding 2 rupees here as well. So finally, at the end of the year, how much will be taxed? On the core amount 20 and on the interest amount 22. So what they're trying to tell you is that up to a certain amount, we can extend not taxing you, but above that, we will tax you. And same way, even the interest on that minimum amount, we will not tax, but the excess interest, we will tax you. This is the extra amount. This is the extra interest. So are they taxing you on the extra amount and the excess interest? Yes. This is exactly what is happening in your salaries chapter also. Be with me. The government says this is your master and this is the employer. The government says if your master contributes to your provident fund, to your national pension scheme, and to your superannuation fund. So instead of your bank account now, he's transferring to other accounts, but they are your accounts only, your provident fund, your national pension scheme, and your superannuation fund. Your master is contributing. So instead of someone putting money in your bank account, here is just a different account. The government says up to 7.5 lakh rupees. If he contributes up to 7.5 lakh rupees, I'm perfectly okay. But guys, what if he contributes 8.5 lakh rupees? Please tell me, what if he contributes 8.5 lakh rupees? How much will not be taxed? Please tell me the amount which will not be taxed. 7.5 lakhs will not be taxed. And how much will be taxed? 1 lakh will be taxed. Okay, perfect. We've got the amount, the main amount we've got. So this is under section 17(1)(7). The core amount they will tax is 1 lakh. Now, guys, please tell me yes or no. In your PF account, in your NPS account, in your statutory superannuation fund, do you earn interest? Of course, you earn interest. Now, let's say that is 85,000. Out of 85, how much will be not taxed, guys? How much will not be taxed? 75,000 will not be taxed. And 10,000 will be taxed. And 10,000 will be taxed. So you'll add 10,000 here as well. So this year, they're taxing two things. This year, they are taxing two things. One is whatever extra above 7.5 lakhs you've got. And because of that, whatever extra interest you got, so this one is exempt, this one is exempt, these amounts are taxable, this amount is taxable. This is the core amount, and this is the interest amount. Have a look at it again, guys. I'm going to stop here and I'm going to ask for any questions that you might have. So they said, let your master contribute to your bank account, no, your PF account, your NPS account. Just the bank account has now changed to your PF account, to your NPS account, to your SAF account. How much is the master contributing? Up to 7.5 lakhs, we will not tax you. How much does he contribute in all these three accounts together? 8.5 lakhs. So up to 7.5 lakhs, we will not bother you. But 10 excess of that, we will tax you. So 1 lakh is taxed under a section called 17(1)(7). Seventeen is perquisite, 2(7). 17 to 7A. A is the added amount. On the core amount, what extra do they add? They add interest. As A is the added amount. The interest is 85,000. I'm just giving you random numbers which are easy to calculate. 85,000. On that 75,000, you will not add, but on 10,000, you will add. Same thing, guys. Same thing. Now we have to do. The only thing is this interest calculation. You have to work around. So let's see a sum, guys. Let's see a sum. Be with me. Let's see a sum on this. You just have to tell me how much to add, how much to not add. Be with me. Suppose X Private Limited, that is your master, contributed 8.5 lakh during the previous year 2021 towards recognized provident fund to the account of Mr. A. Guys, why such a high amount? Because people like CEOs, people like CFOs, their salary is lots. So hence 12% of that will be more than 7.5 lakhs. So they have contributed 8.5 lakhs to your account. So to your PF account, how much has been contributed? 8,50,000. Guys, please tell me right now only under 17 to 7, how much will be taxed? 1 lakh will be taxed because that 1 lakh is above 7.5 lakhs. I hope till here everyone's okay. So this is the core amount, how much will be taxed. But now there is some interest also which I want to tax. Let's see how much is the interest. Mr. A also had made an equivalent contributions, guys. He contributed, your master contributed 8.5 lakh. So this is your PF account balance. Your master contributed 8.5 lakh. You also contributed 8.5 lakh. Balance in your account as in the start of the year was 32 lakhs. And interest that you earned in this account was 3,44,250. So even that came to your account, guys. Interest is also added to your account only. So your account is now, it has these amounts, which the last one is the interest amount. Now, under 17 to 7A, I want to add interest. But of course, I can't add this entire interest. The entire interest I can't add. So how much interest do I add? That interest on 1 lakh rupees, whatever is the rate of interest, that I will add. Whatever is the rate of interest on 1 lakh, because only the 1 lakh is extra. So again, I repeat, guys, this is the core amount. There is no discussion on it. You had to contribute 7.5, you contributed 8.5, that is your master. So that 1 lakh is the extra amount, which is the core amount, which is taxed. Next, guys, is 17 to 7A, which is on the interest. Now, how do you calculate interest? What is the excess amount? 1 lakh. So on that, you need to calculate interest, but they have not told you the rate of interest. Guys, so now I have to calculate the rate of interest. Be with me. Rate of interest is the interest upon the total. But here the total is starting of the year I have 32 lakhs. Then throughout the year I had different amounts. So how do I total this up? So what they say is, guys, how did you calculate interest? If I tell you you got 85,000 rupees interest on 8 lakh 50, how do you calculate this? This is how you calculate, and you say 10%. But this amount is not there throughout the year. 32 lakhs was there throughout the year, but these amounts were put monthly, every month some amount, every month some amount. So how do I calculate the denominator? How do I calculate the denominator? Here it is. I take the opening balance and I take the closing balance and I divide it by 2. I take the average of my PF account. I repeat, guys, if they had told you your account has 8 lakh 50 on which you earned 85,000, anyone would do 85,000 divided by 8 lakh 50 and tell you 10%. But unfortunately, I don't have an amount which is throughout the year in my PF account, because PF gets every month they keep adding to the PF. So I need to get the average. So what is the opening balance? 32 lakhs. The closing balance is 32 lakhs plus 8 lakh 50 plus 8 lakh 50 plus 344 250, which is closing balance is 52 lakh 44,250, and the average, I'm going very slow, so the average balance, guys, is 42 22 125. So okay, I've earned 3 lakh 44 250 on an average balance of 42 22 125. So 3 lakh 44 250 divided by 42 22 125 into 100. So I have earned interest at the rate of 1.5%. So how do I calculate my interest? Someone would say take 1 lakh and then multiply it by 8.15%. But here again, you're assuming this 1 lakh is there throughout the year. This 1 lakh is not there throughout the year. It has been added over a period of time. So even this 1 lakh has to be done in average. So 1 lakh divided by 2. So you get average into 8.15%. So 4075 is the interest that will be added. So core amount you understood, 17 to 7, the core amount that is extra will be added, and 17 to 7A, the interest will be added. So I'm just trying to show you here. Step 1, calculate interest rate. How do you calculate? You take the interest, you take the opening balance, closing balance, divide by 2. You got the interest rate. Perfect. Step 2, interest on current year excess deposit. So this is what we've done, interest on current year excess deposit. But guys, this is the story of this year. What if last year also you had excess amount, on that you had earned excess interest also? Guys, this is the story of the current year. This is the excess amount in the current year. But what if last year you had some excess amount? On that also you would have earned interest. And on that interest you would also earn interest. Let me just tell you. I'll repeat, guys. I'll repeat. First, let's finish current year and then we'll go back. So everyone is okay with this 1 lakh rupees. Why did we add 1 lakh? Because that is excess above 7.5 lakhs. So I added 1 lakh. Then I also wanted to add interest on it. I also wanted to add interest on it. Interest on that 1 lakh. Interest on that 1 lakh. I wanted to add interest. So first I calculated my interest rate. How did I calculate my interest? I took 3 lakh 44 250. But please tell me, guys, why did I not divide this by 52 lakhs? Because 52 lakhs was not there throughout the year. Guys, if you, Harsh and Joel, whoever asked me these questions, I'm just asking you one question. That why did you not take 52 lakh 44 250? You did not take 52 lakh 44 250 because that was not there throughout the year. I hope you understand that bit. Let me know if you understand that. Yes, perfect. So because 54 44 250 was not there throughout the year, we took an average of these two, which is 42 22 125, which is 42 22 125, and that's how we get the interest rate, which is 8.15%, which is great. But now that I'm applying this interest rate, I have a similar thought that again this interest rate I'm applying on an amount which is there, but it's not there throughout the year. Guys, in the first month, out of this 10,000, only 8,000 would have gone. The second month, one more 8,000. So I can't multiply it with 100. I need to take the opening balance plus closing balance divide by 2. So opening balance was 0, closing balance was 1 lakh, divide by 2 is 50,000. I hope you now understood why I divided it by 2. Perfect. So, but if employee and employer contributes on the very first day, they don't never contribute on the very first. Salary throughout the year, do you get in the month of April only? So guys, how it happens is every month you get salary in your bank account and some amount is deposited in your PF account every month that happens. And hence, although I wanted to multiply this interest rate by 1 lakh rupees, I asked myself, was this 1 lakh throughout the year? No. But how much was it? 0. At the end, how much was it? 1 lakh. So 0 plus 1 lakh is 1 lakh divided by 2. That is 50,000 into 8.15. Which is 407. Perfect. So guys, we're done with two amounts. One is this core amount. I'll call this the core amount, and one is this interest amount. Both these are for a current year. Now, guys, of course, this concept only got introduced in 2021. So in your case, we will not have previous year. But just let's assume, guys, in 1920 also, there was an excess contribution. Let's put a different number. Let's say there was excess contribution of 80,000. In 1920, there was excess contribution, which you must have added in 1920. Okay, so done. Yes, but that on that interest you would have earned this year. Yes. So that also you need to divide by 2 into 8.15. Again, I repeat. This is the current year, and honestly, in your exam, if this question asks, it's only going to be asked for the current year because your previous year is 1920 when this was not there. But still, because they've given us in the amendment, I'm just going to clarify this, that what if in the year 1920, assuming guys, in the year 1920, there was 80,000 of excess contribution. So I would have added it last year only, no, under 1727. Yes, you added the core amount, but this year, guys, please tell me yes or no. On this 80,000, would you have earned interest this year also? If it's in your bank account, would you earn interest on last year, some amount you deposited? Do you earn interest this year also? Yes, if it continues. So on this 80,000, which is coming from last year's excess, will you earn interest this year also? Yes. And guys, please tell me, was this amount throughout the year? Yes, this amount was there throughout the year. So you'll straight away multiply it by 8.15%. So step 3, interest on previous year's excess deposit. And what if last year's interest, guys, was 50,000? Even that would have continued to this year. And even on interest, you would have earned interest. So even that you have to multiply with 8.5%. So step 4 is interest on previous year's excess interest. So there are 4 things you need to add, but for your exam, you need to add only 2 things. As I'll repeat this one last time entirely. Your master was supposed to contribute 7.5 lakh to your account, but he contributed 8.5 lakh, very, very generous. So how much is the core amount? 1 lakh rupees. There is no confusion on this. 17 to 7. This will be added to your salary income. But not just the core amount, the interest on the core amount also I want to add. So the interest rate I want to find out. The interest I know. How do I find out the interest rate? 3,44,250 should be divided by the closing balance. No, because the closing balance was not there throughout the year. So you take average opening plus closing divided by 2. So I divide it and I get my rate of interest, which was 8.15%. Now that I should multiply with 1 lakh by 50,000 because 1 lakh wasn't there throughout the year. The excess was there, but it was there in parts. So you take average and you get 4075 as the interest, which is added under 17 to 7. So no story is over. No story is not over because in your exam it will be over. But I'm just telling you because the amendment talks about it. What if in the previous year you had some excess deposit? Just like this year you have 1 lakh. Even last year you could have 1 lakh. But that would have been added. No, that 80,000 would have been added last year. Yes, excess amount is added, but it's continued today. So on that excess amount there would be interest. Yes. So multiply that. But why not half? because this was there throughout the year. And on last year's excess interest, even that would have continued this year. Yes. So on that excess interest also, because it was there throughout the year, multiplied by interest. So you will add 4 amounts: core amount, interest amount, interest amount, interest amount. So 1 core amount and 3 interest amounts. 1 core amount and 3 interest amounts is what you will add. This, guys, the way I think some statistician, some PhD holder has defined the amendment, the way ICA has come up with an amendment, it is so strange. Honestly, it had to be done slightly simpler. I'm just going to read that amendment, and then guys, we will just, if you have any questions, we'll discuss that. Just putting that amendment on the screen. 1 second. In case of contribution made by master to slave in the RPF account or NPS account or approved superannuation fund exceeds 7.5 lakhs in the previous year, then such excess amount above 7.5 lakhs will be treated as income. That is the first amount under section 17(2)(7). Further, interest on such excess, that's the second amount, interest on current year excess, plus excess of previous year, that's the third amount, interest on previous year in this example, not as this previous year, previous years, that means the before year, after, before this, interest on previous year's excess amount and excess interest. So interest on previous year's excess interest, all these will be added, all these 4 amounts will be added. One is under 17(2)(7) and the others are under 17(2)(7)(a), because all these are interest. So they are added amount 17(2)(7)(a. All you need to do is, first, this one is very easy. Anything more than 7.5 lakhs is your amount. This can come, guys, but I don't think this will come in a way that they have given. This will come in a way that they will tell you that the excess amount is 8.5 lakhs. You will add 1 lakh rupees and they'll tell you the interest rate, or they'll give you this kind of balance, What we will do, guys, is, because it's 2:15, I'm not going to push ahead on IDT amendments. Next time that I see you guys and I want to plan a lecture, either after 3 p.m. tomorrow I'll plan, or I'll plan it on Monday. Whenever I plan another lecture, we will do IDT amendments. So we will just go through overall a bird's eye view of IDT. So what are the different chapters, etc. And then we'll discuss the amendments, and that time we'll also discuss this amendment once again, so that it's very, very clear in your mind. Just repeating again, the excess amount, 1 is to be added. On the excess amount, the interest is to be added. And don't forget last year's excess and last year's excess interest also. On those two also you have to add interest, because everything which is in the bank account will earn interest. So those will also have to be added, 17(2)(7) and 17(2)(7). That's been my time today, guys. I'm here for any question that you might have. I'm letting you unmute as well. No problem with that. Guys, any question that you all might have, we have time.
Sir.
Yes, please.
Sir, according to the new tax regime, the section 115B